everybody. I am Branden Sewell. I'm the owner of Seal Pro Painting and now also Seal Pro Seal and Wash, located in Central Florida. I'm also the host of the Off the Ladder podcast, and we exist to help home service business owners learn so that they can lead well and ultimately live life off of the ladder. I am excited today to have a guest on here. His name is Thor Rippy. Just a quick bio on Thor, really quick. He served in the Army for 10 years. He is a carpenter and brick mason from 18 to
Right.
28, 28 years old, 18 to 28 years old. Um, he took that experience to the civilian world and started his own construction company. And after many failed attempts at finding a happy work environment, he's always been an entrepreneur at heart, even at a young age, selling stuff at school and flea market to make his own money. He's been in business with his construction company since 2015, and he also officially started a photography and videography company as well. His life has been nothing short of an incredible journey, and he has a lot of stories.
Thank you. Nice to be here. So my name is Thor Rippy. I'm from Charlotte, North Carolina. Just a little bit about me, kind of my story. Um, I grew up, had a very rough upbringing. I knew at a young age, in school, middle school, high school, that I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. And that's kind of where it started. Growing up, I took jobs. I started working when I was 13 years old. I ended up, I think my first job was like baling hay on a farm. Um, Went from there, just took normal jobs. My actual first job at 18 was a janitor for a large manufacturing company where I worked there for a little bit. Um, Left there, ended up going, back to school, I guess you could say. I went back to school to be an EMT and a firefighter. I was actually a volunteer firefighter for about 3 years on and off. Did that, loved it, absolutely loved it. Moved around a good bit. Joined the military at 18. I actually, funny story, and kind of where I'm at today. I actually dropped out of high school. Um, I hated school. I was not good at school. I failed English 5 times. If my English teacher happens to listen to this, she can attest to that. um, Failed English 5 times. I ended up dropping out of high school. I met an Army recruiter. He said, "What do you like to do?" I said, "I like to work with my hands." He said, "I've got the perfect job for you." I ended up signing a contract, did not have a clue what I signed. I just went to the recruiter, said, "Hey, get me out of here. I want to make money. I want to join the military." I did that, signed the contract. He comes back to me and says, "Hey, man, you don't have your high school diploma." And I said, "No, I don't. I dropped out of high school. I thought I told you that." He was like, "You can't join the military." And I
Oh
was
wow!
like, "Okay, well, what do I do?" He was like, "Well, you need to go back to the community college and see if you can get your diploma." So I went back to the community college, was like, "Hey, I want to join the military. I really need to get my diploma." And they were like, "Well, we have a high school program. It's basically a GED, a high school diploma equivalent." So I did that, and it literally the day that I got my paper handed to me that says, "Hey, you finished high school," I went to basic training the next day. Um, Literally overnight, I was on a plane going to Fort Benning, Georgia. That's where I went. That was a very tough experience for me, especially from the way I grew up. I was very insubordinate, hated higher peers and stuff like that. It was a very eye-opening experience for me going into the military. Um, Finished basic training, and then they're like, "Hey, we're shipping you to Mississippi. You're going to be a carpenter and brick mason." And most people know what they're going in the military for before they join. You pick your job and all this stuff. And I was like, "What? I'm going to be a carpenter and brick mason in the Army? That's so cool."
Hmm.
So I go to Gulfport, Mississippi, where I was trained by the Seabees in the Navy, and Red Horse, which is the Air Force's engineers. And then we had Army engineers there. So I trained with all three branches, which was super, super cool. Our training was basically building a house from ground up. We did kind of like the surveying, poured the footers, did the foundation, did the block work, then built the frame, built the walls, built the roof, the whole 9 yards. Um, I left there, and I guess to recap on the military, I joined the National Guard, North Carolina National Guard, which the way that works is in the summertime, you go for a couple of weeks in the summertime full time, and then throughout the rest of the year, you only go one weekend a month. So for 2 or 3 days every month, I'm there just for the weekend. So it was basically reserves for me. So I get back home after completing my training and everything. Found a job with some contractors because I was like, hey, I'm a carpenter and brick mason now. I've been through this school, and I hadn't really had and I didn't really hold a capacity of that type of job before I joined the military. I did help, growing up. We did, roofing, framing, decks, and things like that growing up, but I never like understood like the training behind it or the school behind it. Um, got back home, took some jobs with some contractors, as just laborer, helper, a brick mason, whatever I could get. I took it, and I absolutely hated most of the jobs I took. The contractors I worked for were very disrespectful. I mean, I get it. It's construction job sites. That's kind of how the epitome of all of those are. And people say, "Oh, it's just construction. Like you gotta have tough skin and all this stuff," which is cool. But when you're treated like the bottom of the barrel all day, every day, it gets old pretty quick.
Hmm.
So I actually left this contractor, went to another one, left out and went to another one, and I ended up working for a road construction company at the end of bouncing contractors there for a little bit. And I was a brick mason, so I did all the concrete culverts, medians. I built all the drains up, and I laid all the pipe for the drainage systems that go under the roads. And then we would actually help pave the roads too. So we would do all the motor grading and stuff. I did that for about a year and a half, back in 2013. When I left there, because we finished when they finished the road construction, I just had to find another job. I left there and I went to work for other contractors because there's a bunch of contractors everywhere. You
Hmm.
can find work with a contractor pretty much anywhere.
Right.
So I left road construction, went to work for some contractors here and there. Ended up meeting this one contractor that I love to this day. We don't talk anymore. I haven't spoke to him since back in 2014, 15. But he was the nicest guy. Like, it didn't matter what happened. He was always there for me. Like, hey man, you were out yesterday. Are you okay? Like, he would call, and I'm like, that's the type of contractor I want to be. I want to be a contractor, and at that point, I was like, I want to be like him. I want to be that guy who has employees who love coming to work, who enjoy coming to work, and he actually started my education journey. So that's where he sent me to Schluter classes. So I went and took Schluter classes, to learn how to put their products in for waterproofing tile showers. I took some tile classes with him, and then I got activated in the National Guard to go help with a hurricane. And we were gone for, oh man, I think about a month. Or we were gonna be gone for a month. I know I was there for like 2 or 3 weeks or something. Honestly, there was so much going on in my life and the military career. It's really hard to keep up with like all of those dates.
Hmm.
I left, came back. I called him and said, "Hey, where do I need to be at Monday?" He said, "I quit my company." And I was like,
Oh
"What?
wow.
What am I supposed to do, man? Like, I need a job." And he was like, "Well, here's what I'm gonna tell you. I'm gonna teach you what you need to do to come work for me as a subcontractor." And I was like, "Okay, that sounds great. That sounds cool. I'll be my own boss." And in 2015, I mean, I was 20 years old, 21 years old, and
Yeah.
I was like, "Okay, I'm gonna be my own boss." Like, I thought it was the coolest thing in the world, but I didn't know anything about business then, other
Yeah.
than I make money, I need to spend money on this and this is what I got left. That's all I knew.
Right.
So he was like, "You need to go get your business certificate from the courthouse." So I went and did that, got some insurance, and he actually worked for a very well known restoration company, and I became a subcontractor for a restoration company. And he would
Hmm.
just send me work all the time, and he would take care of me. If I didn't have tools to do it, he would bring his tools from his shop and leave them at the job site for me and my guys, and we would work and then take his tools back to him. Or he gave me a key to his building. Like I said, super nice guy, the best contractor I ever worked for.
Yeah.
Helped me start my company, and that's where it started. That was back in 2015, and that's kind of like where the start happened. Um, it was me, two buddies, and my brother who worked together that the rest of 2015, and that was very, very hard for me. Being 21 years old, I've got three employees that are older than me,
Right.
and I've got to make sure they get paid. I've got to get paid. All this stuff flopped. I was upside down within like 6 months, man. It was so bad. I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have tools. I didn't know the first thing about business.
Hmm.
Um, but I made it. Like my bills were paid. I had food. My cars, all that stuff was paid, and I was still working. But I was nowhere near anything of being a business owner, even though I was, quote unquote.
Yeah.
Um, I left at the end of 2015. I ended up leaving there and taking a job at a complete change of course. I took a job at a dealership as an entry level mechanic.
Mm.
Um, so I ended up being an entry level mechanic, which was honestly great, especially and now today, because I ended up when I was working there, it was a big Chevy dealership or GMC dealership, and they put me through GMC Tech College where I got like I think I have about 38 certifications now through them,
Hmm.
which was super cool. I ended up working there for like a year and a half. And now I can work on my own cars, which is great. So I don't have to pay a lot of people to do a lot of stuff on my stuff, which is
Yeah.
it saves a lot of money. Left there, worked at Papa John's. That's when I became a volunteer firefighter and EMT. Went through EMT school, went through a lot of firefighter training and stuff. Um, Kind of bounced around from that, working for different contractors. Worked at Papa John's. I worked at Domino's Pizza. Um, Ultimately, at the end of all that, I was like, I was still doing construction at the time too. Like I was just doing like small jobs here and there for people, repainting a wall, fixing a wall, building a small deck, or anything that I could do on my own or with just my brother when he was free. So I left all of that, said, I'm going to be a police officer. And I go sign up for police academy back at the college that I got my GED from,
Hmm.
and went through the police academy there, got out, became a police officer. I worked at campus police department for a while in Charlotte, actually. Um, it was great. Honestly, it was one of the best jobs, most fulfilling jobs I ever had. Being able to just get out, I mean, there's a lot of disrespect and a lot of people that hate police officers, but working in that capacity for about 2 years, like you see a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
And at the end of that 2 years, I was just like, I'm drained out, and I'm sure a lot of police officers can correlate, absolutely 100% with this. You get to that point, and you're just like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, and I need to make a decision now because that's one of those careers that you either stay in long term or you just get out of. It's not
Right.
something that you can do like on the weekends or something, unless you're retired and you did policing your whole life. Then maybe, but it's really hard to keep a police mindset and then also do something else on the side or something. So me and my wife decided to just I was just going to be done with it. So I got out of law enforcement. That's when I took that job as the a project manager for a construction company in Charlotte. And I didn't start out as project manager. I started out as a handyman and lead carpenter with him.
Hmm.
A few short months in, he was like, "Hey, I don't know anything about construction. I just bought this company. I'm gonna rely on you for pretty much everything." And I'm like, "Great, okay. Well, I had some experience in 2015. Back to that I ran a company with me, my brother, and two of our friends. And I was like, "Yeah, I know how to run a business. This is great." So I started taking business classes like online. Like I would sign up and pay for these business coaches and take these classes and stuff. And I kind of like, I mean, I went full force on how to run a business, and I was like, I'm going to help this guy succeed because if he succeeds, then I succeed.
Yeah.
And I had that mindset the whole time I worked for him. He was always calling me. He basically gave me the company phone, company car. Was like, here, do what you need to do. I'll approve the budgets, and I want you to basically run the company.
Hmm.
So I did what I could, but with the franchise, like there's rules that you have to follow and all this stuff. And he would have meetings every week with these franchise people that are telling him how to run the business. And I'm like, dude, it's not gonna work here,
Yeah.
And it was one of those models that just I guess it could work if you don't have a heart, and you just want to take money from people.
Yeah.
But it I can't do that. I have a huge heart, man. Like I just really want to help people. And if I'm at your house like doing a bathroom renovation, I can't charge you an extra $20 because I had to go to my truck to get a screw. I just think that's wrong, man. And
Yeah.
I understand companies got to make money. I get it, but there's ways to make money holistically, if you want to call it that. Like you can be an honest business owner and
Yeah.
still make money. So I was just like, okay, I'm going to help you run this. Me and him actually fought the franchise the whole year that I worked for him. He was like, I want to do it your way because I agree with you.
Hmm.
And we threw a lot of the rules from the franchise out the door, and we just kind of ran things the way that we could. He had the numbers and business mindset, and I had the construction application,
Yeah.
education stuff put on the site. So it was a good team. It's just employees, man. Back to employees. Like I was supposed to be the manager. I was supposed to help him find the employees and just send them to the job sites, and me just sit back, make sure that's getting done, show up, once or twice a day, check in. If you need something, call me. I'll go pick it up from Lowe's, take it to you. You know, employees, back to employees, man. It was really hard. Finding honest employees, finding employees with the same vision as you, finding employees that get along, man. Just we had 5 or 6 employees at that company, and 2 of them absolutely hated each other. So we could
Hmm.
never send them to a job site together, and that made things super difficult, especially for trying to get jobs done when you need more hands.
Yeah.
Um, Long story short, a year later, year and some change later, he come to me and said, "Hey, I don't want the company anymore." Um, Actually, a very sad story. He actually come to me and told me that he was going to kill himself, and I was like, "Hey, man, let's go have a long talk because I understand that you're stressed and all this stuff. That's not the answer." We sat down for probably about 4 hours that day, man. Had a long 4 hour conversation.
Hmm.
I was like, "Hey, I love you. Like, I just want you to know that you've been a great boss to me, and I appreciate you coming to me. But let's get you help, man. I want you to let's do a clean exit. Like, let's get you out of the business. I know that you're upside down. You took your 401k out. It was an older guy, and I was like, hey, let's do whatever we can to help you.
Hmm.
Um, he's doing great today, by the way, just so nobody gets any
Too
like
bummed.
sad feelings here. He's doing great. He's doing a lot better. He went back to corporate America. He's back in the numbers field, doing what he
Yeah.
loves, what he went to school for. Um, and he's been appreciative. He actually gave me all of the tools from the business that he bought. He gave me the clients. He gave me everything. And that's when me and my wife said, "Look, we have everything." Basically, I wouldn't say handed to us because most of the work was from me at the company anyway. So it's kind of like I built that clientele, that database, those tools and stuff. So he gave me a good bit of the tools. He split them with me and 2 of the other guys that were kind of higher up there. And so I took whatever he gave me and I kind of ran with it.
Right.
So that's when he closed down in 2020, and in May we started up full time. That was the start of Rippy's renovations, 100%, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
From there, and I took one employee with that from that company with me. Me and him worked for that whole year. It was just me and him. And from May to December, I think we brought in around $80,000 to $90,000, somewhere around there.
Hmm.
Uh, which was good, especially for what 7 months, 6 or 7 months. That was really good. Um, but it was also split between 2 people, and then me learning, hey, I need this. I got to buy a trailer now. I got to buy
Right. Right.
tools. I need this. I need that. I got to get this equipment. Um, so the second year in business, so 2021, we're in the middle of COVID at all this too, which is a
Yeah.
whole nother conversation. But COVID was probably one of the best things that ever happened to construction. And I don't know if you had the same experience back then, but
Yeah, I mean we definitely grew through like 2020, 2021 into 2022.
Mhm.
I had a bad year in 2022, but that's another story, but yeah, it definitely was a good year. Um Really quick before we like, go too much further. I just wanted to like interject for those who are listening to this. Like I think it's really amazing your story. And Jobber, actually, I'm a user of Jobber. I don't know if you've ever heard of them, but they just put out the blue collar trades report for this year. Basically, it's just a report on how the trades are doing, kind of like the pulse of the trades in the United States. And last year through their research, they found that there was like a 500,000 plus worker deficit in the trades. and that for like every 7 people who were retiring or leaving the trades, there was only like one person coming in to the trades. And obviously, you hear a lot about the difficulties of finding skilled laborers. Whether that's carpenters, plumbers, electricians, the list goes on. But there's challenges in finding that skilled labor. And one of the things that they talked about this year and they're really making like a push for is that more of Gen Z, like you and I, millennials, the generation below us, really need to be made aware of the opportunities that are in the trades. And um, I even think back to like when I was in high school. I don't know how old you are. I just turned 32. Um, but
I'm
back when
30.
I, huh?
I'm 30.
Yeah.
So
So we were in high
close
school
to
around the same time.
Mhm.
But I just remember like back when I was in high school, like the push was like go to college, go to college, go to college. And there wasn't as much information out there about like trade schools or like the viable options of like becoming an electrician or a plumber or, carpenter or, and the list goes on. As I mentioned before, just there's so many different trades jobs you could go into. And I feel like there was like some exposure. Like we had shop class, we had like a shop, auto body shop or whatever on our campus at my high school, and um, so there was limited exposure, but it wasn't presented as like a viable option to like everybody, right? It's like if somehow maybe somebody else told you about it, maybe you might know about the trades, but it wasn't that. Like I said, the main focus was like go to college and avoid having to work with your hands. Go to college and be able to sit at a desk or make crazy money. So then we have a generation or generations of people who went to college, took on massive amounts of student loan debt, only to come out of college and get very like average jobs, and then be overburdened with massive amounts of student loan debt. Now, I love your story because here you are, you dropped out of high school, you decided to get your GED, but you've worked, right? And I think just through listening to you, it's easy to tell that you're an intelligent person. You obviously have skills and like you've been able to do well for yourself and start your own business. And so I think just on that topic of like what Jobber's been talking about, like man, um, and obviously student loan debt is a huge topic of conversation in today's world. But I just think more young people need to hear stories like yours, and know like, hey, college isn't the only option. You can still be successful if you work hard and you're dedicated and put your mind to something. You can still be successful. It's not like college is the only way
Right.
to be successful and make a living. So anyway, I just wanted to interject those thoughts there and just say that props to you for just being a hard worker and getting after it. So it looks like it's paying off for you. So you left off talking about 2021. So kind of continue in that story there.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was kind of the epitome of us starting up officially full time as Rippy's Renovations. And I started taking classes online, like business coaches, listening to these podcasts. Um, the Build Show, which I don't know if you're familiar with the Build Show with Matt Reisinger. Um,
Mm-mm.
they are huge advocates for not going to college. They're not saying like don't go to college, but they are kind of like Mike Rowe. I know you know who Mike Rowe
Yeah,
is
yeah,
from
for
Dirty.
sure.
They are trying to like get together with him right now to support people going into the trades, blue collar, man. Like that's
Right.
where there's a lot of money to be made there, especially when with time and experience and knowledge.
Yeah.
You could be making as much as a doctor in some aspects of
Or more.
construction. Absolutely. Yeah, exactly, or more. You
And
under
not have that
underwater
like,
welders.
and what I really try to like drive home is and not the same amount of debt. Like, even if you
Yep.
made a little bit less than a doctor, let's say like a doctor's making, I don't know, 200, $300,000 a year, maybe more or less in some cases. But if you're even making like, you know, 150,000 a year, but you don't have, 100,000 plus dollars worth of student loan debt, plus a multi-million-dollar house and $300,000 car, you can do well for yourself. So it's just changing your mindset and how you look at that. So it's a good point.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's where, so back to like Matt Reisinger, I actually recently finished a building science 101 course that they offer, and they give you like a little certificate for completing it and stuff. And that'll be like future conversation. I'll get into that. But back to, us starting up full time, that's when I dove in. I was like, hey, I like, this is my life now. I have to support me and my wife. And I was like, this is going to be rough. It's a complete difference from me just running a company who was giving me all the money that I needed to buy things and get things and pay payroll and all that stuff. It's me now. So it was me and one guy the first year. We brought in about 80, 90 grand that first year, which was great. 2021, we picked up, and honestly, just word of mouth. I met realtors. I went to BNI groups. I went to networking groups. I started joining these Facebook groups where people were like, I'm looking for a contractor. I need someone who's honest. And I'm sure that you get this story all the time, but the construction world and any contractor in general, there's not many honest contractors out there. People show up, they'll take a deposit, and they're gone. They never come back. Peace. We're taking your money. We don't care about you. And we've built my company. I'm sure you've done the same on our reputation and quality and honesty, integrity, all those things, and being a good human being.
Yeah.
You don't even have to be like perfect or anything, just be a good human. And basically, we had those tough times in the last 3 years of me running the business where I've had to go to customers and say, hey, I've got to have a hard conversation with you. This wasn't in your contract. I can't do it for free, or hey, I've had the conversations where I've went to a customer and said, hey, I quoted your job at $100,000, but it's going to cost me 130 now, and I don't have the money to fund it. And what can we come to a good solution at? And
Hmm.
being able to have those conversations has definitely built my reputation and helped me get to where I am today. Um, in 2021, we just, because of that, it was just man hurricane of people just coming through, and I was like, I can't keep up. I ended up hiring like 5 people within a course of 3 months, and that's a lot. Like hiring 5 people on W-2. None of my employees have been 1099 at all the last 3 years except one. And we ended up building a model where we did everything in house. So we didn't sub anything out unless it was licensed trades, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, yeah, or gas, which is under plumbing. We did everything in house. So I ended up hiring a painter and drywaller. I hired a I hired two master carpenters who are probably 40, 50 years old. I ended up hiring two laborers last year or the year before last, and then we had um, I guess he's kind of like a trim carpenter, handyman. He could do a little bit of everything.
Hmm.
And then I hired a tile guy, just a full on tile guy. So my business model was, when you hire me to come do your job, it's going to be me. It's going to be my guys. They're W-2. They're not 1099. Everything has been methodically put in place. Like I have tons of just like papers and like, I would guess you could call them handbooks that I've personally made for my
Hmm.
employees, and like a ladder system. Like, hey, if you start out as a laborer, this is what I think a laborer should be able to do. And when you say, hey, Thor, I'd like a pay raise, I'm going to give you that carpentry test because now you're an entry level or apprentice carpenter. And if you pass that test, hey, you're going to get your pay raise. You're going to go up. There's got to be structure there. We as humans, we want structure. We need structure. Without it, we couldn't operate.
Yeah, for sure.
And so we we just people just kept coming in. I started hiring employees. We grew exponentially. The second year was great. I was not off the ladder. I was still there. I was on the ladder, handing stuff, holding stuff, building. meeting with engineers if we were trying to get beams put in to take out a wall or something, all of this stuff. And then it was great. The second year was pretty good. It was still stressful, um, but I learned a lot that second year. Especially those hard conversations. Like being able to have those hard conversations, I would say has probably been one of the best things that I've ever done at all in my life, really, because you can use hard conversations anywhere. Um,
Hmm.
Last year we just kept growing, and I actually backed off. So last year, January through April, we did a really big commercial project. Um, Probably bigger than we should have taken on, but I ended up taking it on because they basically begged me to take it. They called me out there like 3 times. We can't find a contractor that'll do it. We can't do this. I said, cool. Here's my contract. We'll do it on time and materials with a paycheck every Friday. I'm not. The project was so big that I couldn't just say, hey, it's going to cost 300 grand. So I gave them a rate of me and my basically 16 employees, or how many ever we need allocated to your project for that week. Here is the hourly rate per employee per business. That's what it's going to be. And they agreed to it. They're like, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. We love it. Honestly, we think we can come in under budget because you're doing it hourly instead of for the project.
Hmm.
We got into it. We tore all this stuff out. We found tons of stuff in the building because the building was built back in like 1968 or something like that. We found a ton of structural issues. We had to get another engineer out. We had to get an architect out because it was such a large commercial project. They come out. They're like, hey, this is what you need to do. They come to me. How long is it going to take? Probably an extra month. And they're like, whoa, we don't have that money. Long story short, we ended up in a lot of hard conversations with them. We ended up trying to we did walk off the job site one day because of them not paying us on time. We ended up going back to finish. We finished the project. Um, Project looks great. There's pictures, videos of that on there, on our website and stuff. We, because of them not paying us on time. So when we left that last month, I had all these employees. Um, they ended up basically not paying us for almost 2 months. I didn't get a check for basically 2 months, and I'm trying to start other projects and stuff.
Yeah.
But in that time, those 4 months, I was off the ladder. I was away. I was in here in the office. I had a full time office guy who was helping me too, who was helping me do renderings and blueprints and meetings and getting
Hmm.
all this stuff lined up. Me and him were in the office full time, so we had two full time people in the office, and that's huge for a company. Like that's big. I had all the guys out there working. Um, I had two really good guys who were my lead guys, basically project managers that I trusted with everything. Hey, you don't even have to call me. It was that there was that much trust there. I trust your vision. I trust the experience you have. Just make a decision and go on with it. And kind of from there, like when they didn't pay us, I didn't have the money to pay my guys. I told my guys like, hey, I'm going to pay you. It's just going to be a while. Some of them actually was like, I gotta leave, and I respected it, and I still talk to all those employees today that I used to have. They're working other jobs. They're probably not happy at their jobs. Actually, I don't think most of them are happy at their jobs. Um, but man, it was really hard. So we took out personal loans, maxed out 8 credit cards, some of them with a $10,000 limit. Um, we did everything that we possibly could. I sold stuff. I was selling my Xbox, you know, whatever I could sell just to make bills, just to pay our personal bills, not even the business bills. And it was it was really stressful. And me and my wife were like, we got to do something. We got to change what we're doing. You know, try some different marketing, all this stuff. I was like, okay, let's step back. Let's just stop taking the big jobs. We had a lot of employees that left. Um, I ended up getting a phone call from a buddy, a really good buddy of mine. He's actually probably my best friend. Hey man, would you come and have tacos for lunch with me today and talk to me about some work? Because we have some work for you. Okay, cool. So go have tacos with my buddy. I get there, I meet his basically the second in charge or second hand owner of that company. And they travel all over America and they install lights and cameras and stuff for like these big church, like mega churches, if that's what you want to call them, for their stages and their like I say concerts, man. for their worship or for their congregations, right? But it's kind of it basically is concerts, you know. And he was like, "Would you guys be willing to travel with us and install these acoustic panels that go on the wall?" And I said, "I've never done it. I don't even know what you're talking about." He said,
Mhm.
"We'll train you if you and you can bring 3 employees with you." And I was like, "Okay, cool." So we ended up closing our office here in Charlotte, and we took this contract with this company who agreed to pay us a certain amount every week, which was great pay. Me and 3 of my guys went on the road. I ended up having that was for the last 6 months of last year, and I had 3 full time guys. I ended up